Well, as a scientist, I can comment on realities, and I have to put values aside. Okay, so the reality is that the responsibility humanity has for climate is certainly common, because CO2, which is the main human greenhouse gas, has a long lifetime in the atmosphere, which means that whether that CO2 is emitted in the US, in Belgium, or in Timbuktu in Africa, it has the same effect in the long term on climate. So the atmosphere only sees the total amount of CO2 and most other long-lived greenhouse gases that's emitted through human activity. So the fact that it's a common responsibility is well understood and has a good scientific foundation. The fact now that we have differentiated responsibilities has also some factual foundation as well, values aside, because there are some values in the idea of responsibility, of course. But if you look at the proportion of greenhouse gases accumulated in the atmosphere that comes from so-called developed countries and from so-called developing countries, you see that as far as the accumulation quantities are concerned, about 3/4 of the accumulated quantities are coming from developed countries at this day, and about 1/4 from developing countries. So if you just divide the world in those two groups, there are differentiated accumulated emissions for sure from those two groups of countries and population. Now, if you agree with IPCC that most of the warming, at least for the past 50 years, is indeed mostly due to human activities, then it makes sense to recognize that a certain responsibility, a certain causality at least, is related to that very different amount of gases emitted by developed countries and by developing countries. So I think that concept, even of course if it's very close to values, is also a concept with very good factual and scientific foundation actually.